founded and led the Google Brain Deep Learning Project. He's a prolific speaker and author, including of some articles for Harvard Business Review, and he is a major tease. He's been telling his followers about his next big thing, and I know some of his fans are out here. I'm going to do my best to see what I can get out of him using my expert reporter techniques, but he tweeted recently, "I have some ideas for what 2017 could be great timing for. Stay tuned," smiley face. And he sends fans to his website, which is deeplearning.ai, and if you excitedly go to his website, it says, "Coming in August." Nothing more, no links to click on. So we'll see what we can get out of Andrew for this. It sounds almost like you're switching jobs every couple of years just so the robots can't find you and take your job. It's just seems like. So anyway, so the first question I'm going to ask is...
Was it a couple of weeks ago, my wife was talking to me, and she said, "Andrew, I think you're the most hardworking, unemployed person I know."
That's not bad. So the first question is very basic, but I think it might be helpful just to sort of set the context, which my first question is going to be, what is AI? It's a little bit like interviewing Steph Curry, and the first question is, what is basketball? But we're going to do it. So just like your quick, kind of concise elevator ride, what is AI, to sort of, for those who are maybe a little confused about it?
Yeah, maybe one sentence answer. AI is the discipline, it's a science and engineering discipline of getting machines to behave intelligently. And that's a very vague phrase, and there's actually been a moving bar. Several decades ago, it used to be that the software to find the shortest route in your GPS, how do you find the shortest route to go from San Francisco to Palo Alto, that used to be bleeding edge AI several decades ago, but now it's in your GPS unit, your cell phone. It's no longer perceived as AI. Spam filters used to be bleeding edge AI maybe 10, 15 years ago, but now it's just such an ordinary part of our lives. Somehow, AI always feels like it's in the future. It might be because AI is progressing so rapidly, and we are acclimatized to what already works, and we're always looking forward to even bigger things in the future.
Okay, so is this then just the next stage in the development of computing power, or is this a game changer?
The recent rise of computing power, especially GPU computing, has really powered the rise of AI. I think that the rise of AI has required more than computing power. Over the last decade or so, we as a society acquired huge amounts of data, and I think it was only recently, the last maybe 5, 6 years, that we figured out how to process all that data to turn it into value, to build new valuable products and services. Having said that, this rise of computing power, as well as data, has also enabled a lot of algorithmic innovation. Just in the last several years, there have been inventions of new algorithms that are making computers able to do things like translate languages or recognize speech and so on much better than they ever could before.
So, okay, because that was going to be my next question. So why now? As you said, AI, however you define it, it's always something that's in the future. But it feels like its time has come. And you started to talk about maybe some of the factors. But I'd love to hear more of the sort of confluence of factors that have made this moment seem like the time when AI has sort of arrived. It's something we all need to think about.
Yeah, if I plot a graph, I'm going to plot a graph in the air, I guess. If the x-axis is how much data you have for a problem, then for the older generations of AI, really machine learning algorithms, the performance used to go up for a while and then they'll flatten out. It was as if the older generations of algorithms didn't know what to do with all the data we now have. And this could be speech recognition or predicting what ads you're likely to click on, which is very lucrative. But the older generations of algorithms, say speech recognition, would get better up to a certain amount of data, but then it wouldn't know what to do with more and more the additional amounts of data we now have the ability to collect. But with the rise of deep learning, what we found was that if you can build very big artificial neural networks, very big computer systems to process all this data, then the performance of your AI system just keeps going up and up and up and up. And so this is the reason some of the bleeding edge of AI has shifted to what HPC, high-performance computing, or supercomputers, because today we're really building huge computers to process all the data we now have access to. Maybe as one fun fact, the leading speech recognition engines today are trained on 5 years or sometimes north of 10 years of audio data, and that's just a huge amount of data, right? If we start playing that audio for you, that one of these speech systems is trained on, we'll be sitting in this room for 10 years before you finish listening. So these systems are often processing far more data than any human, like a young child could possibly listen to before they've learned to recognize speech, and is enabling all sorts of new capabilities for computers.
So you seem in the comments that you make, you seem to take as your role to sort of debunk misconceptions, to debunk simplistic exponential thinking, for example, to debunk the idea that AI is something sort of magical. We actually, so as part of this big idea, we take a topic and we play it out over several days with various forms of content, multimedia. But one of them, we did an interview with Joaquin Candela, who runs Facebook's Applied Machine Learning Group. So, he says he's trying to get out of the idea that AI is magic. And he often shows a slide with a wizard and a factory and says Facebook likes to think of AI as the factory because wizards don't scale. So could you talk a little bit, there is this sort of magical thinking that AI will be something so fundamentally different from anything we've ever seen. Is that wrong, or is that maybe right? It's early.
Yeah, actually, Joaquin's a good guy. I really admire his work at Facebook. For what it's worth, so one of the challenges of AI is that I think AI technology is now advanced enough that we can transform maybe every single major industry. There's a surprisingly clear path for transforming healthcare, education, transportation, manufacturing, pretty much almost any industry you might be working in. So we have our sights aimed really high. But there is a science fiction version of AI of human-level intelligence, or even human super intelligence, machines so much smarter than any human is or ever could be. So that's the science fiction. So one of the challenges of explaining AI has been how to explain that we have our sights aimed extremely high, which is transforming every major industry, but we don't see a clear path yet to the human-level intelligence or the super intelligence. I think that's generated, unfortunately, some of the hype about AI. To demystify it and make AI much less sexy, I think that almost all the economic value of AI today is created through one type of AI called supervised learning, which means learning A to B mappings, input-output mappings, such as input an email, output 0 or 1, depending on whether it is spam or not. Spam is 1, not spam is 0. Or input a picture and output, is there a cat in this picture? Or input a picture and tell me, are the faces of your friends in this picture? Or input an English sentence, output a French sentence, that's machine translation. Or input an audio clip, output a text transcript. So these simple input-output mappings, when you fit them into the appropriate product or business context, turns out to be incredibly valuable. So today, a large fraction of web search is done through voice search, for example, and that's incredibly valuable. We have things like Amazon Alexa, Google Home, Baidu's DuerOS. These types of devices and products just weren't possible a few years ago. But this is just learning input-output mappings, or input some information about the user and an ad, that's the input, and output, will the user click on this ad? That might be the single most lucrative application of supervised learning today, I'm not sure. So this is just one piece of AI. Of course, there are other AI tools, but I think that a lot of the value creation over the next several years will be to figure out where to take the fantastic supervised learning or A to B mapping tools we have and figuring out how to fit them into your business context or into your products.
So I want to come back to some of the sort of dystopian views of the future, and you've weighed in on that debate, but I want to come back to that in a second. I guess I'm interested, which companies, which individuals, is really out front, in the AI. Who do you really respect? Who's really applying AI in ways that are interesting to you?
Gosh, you're really putting me on the spot.
You can pass. You get one pass. That could be it.
No. So I mean, so full disclosure. So what? I've led teams at Google and Baidu, so I am biased. I think that the old teams I used to work for were phenomenal. Just doing amazing work still. I think even I have a lot of respect for Facebook, Microsoft. I think Amazon has been phenomenal at taking AI to product, really bringing it to the market. I don't know. Yeah, there are a lot of good companies doing good AI work.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most visible, but I want to ask you about, IBM and Watson. Is that AI or is that something else?
The boundaries of AI are so vague, it's hard to say. Once upon a time, finding shortest paths, right, driving A to B was AI. I feel like, IBM has certainly made significant investments in Watson and in AI. These days, in the media, they've received some amount of criticism for some of their marketing and some of their PR. But I actually take no pleasure in criticizing any group, and I really hope they succeed, right? But AI is a tough space. One of the challenges of AI is that it requires a lot of customization, right? It's not like you could download an AI open source thing and then it just works on your enterprise. So one of the challenges of AI is that it really needs to be customized to your business context. Just like with the rise of the internet, right? The internet had to be customized to your business context. You couldn't just buy an internet router and then plug it into your business. You had to figure out, what is your internet strategy? So AI is a bit like that. And so I see more companies trying to help non-tech companies do this customization work, but exactly how that will play out is still very much TBD. I think some of the large cloud providers are, nudging into that space. But again, beyond providing the platform layer, beyond selling APIs or selling cloud services, it really takes really cross-functional leadership, right? Deep understanding of AI and a deep understanding of your business to figure out what are the custom solutions to roll out in your corporation.
So what's a functionality of AI now that might surprise people?
I don't know. I was really surprised at the ability of AI to synthesize images and videos that are surprisingly realistic. Just a week ago, a research group, I'm blanking, I wish I named them, given credit, showed that they could synthesize videos of Barack Obama saying things that he had never actually said, wow. Right? And that was I thought we'd get there eventually, but they definitely got there maybe faster than I was even expecting. This technology called GANs, Generative Adversarial Networks, invented by one of my former students, Ian Goodfellow, that's been making tremendous strides in synthesizing images and videos. I think this will transform, computer graphics and the entertainment industry and maybe the movie industry at some point as well.
It would be good for the fake news industry.
Yes, it will be good for the fake news industry.
So, all right. So, on the flip side of that, what's a sort of basic thing that you would think AI could get right that it still can't get right, whether it's pattern recognition or something like that?
Maybe, this is not a basic thing, but one of the problems with AI, strength and weakness, is that it requires so much data. So some examples, I mentioned leading speech recognition systems trained on, maybe a decade of audio data with the transcript. And that's a very expensive asset to acquire, to take 10 years of audio and maybe pay people, find ways to get transcripts of that. That's very expensive. So today's AI often requires more data than any human infant could possibly consume or even need in order to carry out a task. And this is really a huge limitation. To talk about maybe leading edge research, right, stuff that none of us really understand, we think that most human learning is, we call it unsupervised learning, and that means the baby pokes around the world and sucks in audio, sucks in video, and figures it out by itself. So, for example, to recognize a water glass, the way we would teach an AI today is we would give it maybe 10,000 pictures of water glasses, and the AI would, build a pretty good model to recognize water glasses. But for those of you that are parents, no matter how loving or patient a parent you are, pretty sure you did not point out 10,000 water glasses to your child. So this is a major limitation of AI. Those of us in AI are excited about how to come up with better algorithms to get around this and not point out 10,000 water glasses. But I don't think any of us really see a clear roadmap to how to make that happen yet.
So if you're not Facebook, Google, IBM, whoever, do all companies, all large companies, all certain type of companies need to have an AI strategy? Has that moment arrived?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like, so I've talked to a few Fortune 500 CEOs in the last couple of years that wish they had developed their AI, now there are a group of Fortune 500 CEOs that wish they had developed their internet strategy earlier, right? I think 5 years from now, we'll see an equal number of Fortune 500 CEOs that will wish they had developed their AI strategy earlier. And maybe this is the pattern I see across multiple industries. So take healthcare as an example. With the rise of the Affordable Care Act, that caused there to be a lot more electronic health records. And the digitalization of healthcare creates data, digital data, which AI can then come in to eat and create value and make predictions and give you analytics and help you figure out how to do better in the healthcare system. So the more general pattern in a lot of industries is first comes the IT transformation, where what was analog without digital record becomes digitized, and digital activities creates data. And after that IT transformation wave, then comes the AI transformation, where AI can come in and eat the data and create value. One that's behind the healthcare industry is the education industry. I think that with the rise of MOOCs, Coursera, as well as other online ed things, education is still undergoing the digital transformation, where it's going from this analog thing, which doesn't leave a digital trace, to online activities, which creates data. And I was at an EdTech conference just a month ago, a month and a half ago, and I was surprised at the number of AI talks there, because I think as that digital transformation is underway, that creates the data for AI transformation. But I think this pattern will play out in a lot of different industries.
So let's come back to that. All right, so these companies who don't want to, look back 5 years from now and think, I should have had an AI strategy. How do they, how do they get ahead of this? How do they put AI in their products? I mean, how do you begin to operationalize that function?
Yeah, so there was an article that I published in HBR talking about hiring a chief AI officer. But if you look from the perspective of the CEO, right? CEO may have some basic knowledge of AI. For a lot of large company CEOs, and we don't have time to sort out this AI technology and how to use it. And I think that in eras where technology is immature, and I think AI technology is immature, it's still evolving and changing all the time, it's very difficult to sprinkle AI knowledge throughout your entire organization. So I think one option for executives is to hire an AI leader. I call them a chief AI officer, but I've seen organizations with VP AIs or various other titles. But hire a leader to help you build up your AI team, your AI organization. We saw this as well maybe 5-6 years ago with the rise of mobile. Right, 5-6 years ago, mobile, we started to think, wow, mobile is a big trend. We need to figure out a mobile strategy. But there just wasn't enough mobile talent around. And if you have, 5 or 10 business units in your organization, it was very difficult for all 10 business unit leaders to find enough mobile talent. So the only option from the position of really the executive team or chief executive is to try to find one mobile development leader, have them build up an organization and matrix that into the rest of your company. So I think while we're still in this early days of AI, most companies should consider building up a centralized AI function and matrixing that into the rest of your company. Because while AI is still immature and evolving, this allows you to have more consistent promotion standards. It gives your AI team a community of peers to discuss things with each other. In theory, if all 10 or whatever of your business units are able to acquire their own AI talent, I would say by all means let them go for it. But to take an example, let's say you have a gift card business unit, right? And maybe AI could really help transform your gift card business. If your gift card business leader does not know how to acquire AI, it's just going to be difficult for them to acquire top AI talent in today's world where AI talent is so scarce. So I think you're more likely to get AI capabilities integrated into your gift card division if you have a strong leader, build up a centralized function, and matrix it in. Now, what I hope will happen is as AI technology becomes more widely understood, what happened with the mobile world is today, almost everything is mobile, right? And today, almost like every Stanford undergrad graduates, every CS undergrad knows how to develop for iOS or Android. So mobile talent, while still not widely available, it is less scarce. And so now mobile units, centralized mobile business units are disappearing because the individual business units are able to acquire mobile development talent. We're not yet at that phase in AI, but as AI matures, I would love to see the centralized, it's possible, I guess, that the centralized AI units will disappear and that the AI teams can then be hired directly into all of the different business units. You know, when I wrote that article, there was actually one thing that I had missed back then, but that I found to be very helpful, which is to train up your broad-based workforce in AI capabilities. You know, in the tech world, we're used to the ground we're standing on shifting, right? You know, I think when I first learned to program, I learned to program in the basic programming language, which I don't even anyone even talks about as a heard of. But in the tech world, we're used to learning stuff that then shortly becomes obsolete, and you just have to learn something new. So I think most software engineers, most developers that had graduated from school 5 or 10 years ago, you know, they should learn AI. And I think that one other tactic that I'm seeing corporations apply quite effectively is use digital online content, things like Coursera, but also a bunch of other things, to level up your workforce in helping them to acquire this new AI capability. So I found that the combination of using digital online content to very inexpensively and efficiently level up your broad-based workforce, together with a strong centralized AI function, that seems to be an effective formula for helping your whole organization you know, identify and capture some of the valuable AI opportunities.
So you mentioned the focus that companies have had on mobile, and you know, a lot of companies declared themselves mobile first. Facebook sort of famously was willing to take some hits as they kind of reoriented the company toward being mobile first. Do you imagine that sort of the next wave will be companies, not just the IBMs, that say, you know, we are AI first? Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah, you know, there are a few companies now using the AI first terminology, right? Some large companies are now trying to call themselves AI first. I don't have a strong opinion on that, to be honest. There is one other transformation that I think AI will cause, which is that it could cause a new category of companies to arise. Because I think AI capabilities are very different. We might need to re-architect some of our companies to take advantage of AI companies. So here's what I mean. I know the CEO of a large traditional retailer, let's take a shopping mall, right? You know, sometimes my wife and I shop at Stanford Shopping Center. And if you take Stanford Shopping Center and you build a website for Stanford Shopping Center, it's a good shopping mall. You know, but Stanford Shopping Center plus a website is not the same thing as Amazon, right? And the difference is Amazon is a company that is architected to take advantage of internet capabilities. Amazon is a truly tech company, whereas a shopping mall plus a website, or even a traditional retailer plus some online e-commerce unit, is not the same thing as a truly internet company. So what is it that defines an internet company? With the rise of internet capabilities starting maybe 20 years ago, we started to figure out how to build truly internet or internet-first companies. And what defines an internet company is not whether or not you operate a website. What defines an internet company is whether or not you put in place the processes and systems to take advantage of things you could do on the internet, such as internet companies tend to do much more A/B testing. You can learn much more. You can ship, you know, 1,000 different products in one day and see what actually works. Internet companies tend to have much shorter iteration times. Internet companies tend to have less of the CEO unilaterally making a lot of decisions, pushing it down. They tend to instead push decision-making power down to the engineers and the product managers. They're much closer to the tech and the users. So those are the things that truly define an internet company. And I think what I believe will happen with the AI era is that today we see some tech companies sprinkle on a neural network and call themselves an AI company, but whether or not you're a truly AI company is not whether or not you graft on supervised learning into your company, just like whether or not your internet company is not whether or not you happen to build a website. And I think that the most sophisticated companies are starting to think through how to re-architect your company to take advantage of brand new AI capabilities. For example, I think that internet companies are much more strategic about the thinking of data. Rather than having federated data warehouses, rather than having 10 data warehouses or 50 data warehouses all across your organization, internet companies are much more likely to centralize your data warehouse, because that allows engineers to put data together or allows software to look at a lot more data to create value. Internet companies also have, sometimes in our data acquisition strategies, feel like we're playing these multi-year chess games, right? I've done things like launch a product in one geography to get data, planning to use that data to take the next geography and get data, and then use that to get even more data to take the next one. But we don't monetize any of this. We take all this data and monetize it in a totally different place. So the truly sophisticated AI organizations start to think through this multi-year chess game, data acquisition strategy. The job descriptions for product managers and AI engineers and so on are breaking down. So with the rise of the mobile era, we had product managers whose job was to design wireframes, basically draw a picture for what your app looks like, and then the engineer implements that. That's a workflow we figured out for the mobile, or really for the web and mobile eras. But this idea of wireframes, basically drawing a simplified picture of what your app looks like, this is not useful for a lot of AI products. For example, you don't want to wireframing a self-driving car doesn't make sense, right? The product specification for self-driving car is not a wireframe. Or wireframing a chatbot doesn't make sense. I mean, the important thing about the chatbot is the conversation is not about the picture of what the speech bubbles looks like. So I find that we're starting to rewrite the job descriptions of product managers as well, and inventing new processes for them to help them express how to design an AI product. I think we're still in the early, messy days of figuring this out, frankly. 20 years ago, none of us, I mean, certainly I had no idea 20 years ago that A/B testing was going to be such a big thing for the internet. So I think today we're just starting to slowly figure out, what are the things that are important for AI companies. I don't think anyone has figured it out yet. I think Google and Baidu are among the leading, I am biased because I used to work for them, I guess. They are among the leading organizations in terms of thinking out through how to do this AI transformation. But I don't think any of us have figured it out yet. And I think it is TBD, whether it will be the large companies or a new category of new startups, new entrants that could grow to be the truly dominant AI companies of the future.
And can companies that will become AI companies outsource that function? They need to do it internally.
Yeah, is a good question. AI talent, the do you buy or build decision, right? I honestly have a tough time with that one. AI, similar to the internet, requires so much customization. I think that there are definitely companies starting to provide AI solutions for specific industry verticals. I think you can get very good services through some of these companies that can provide solutions to your industry vertical. But it is a classic buy versus build, and I think all those implications also hold true for AI. I don't know, have an easy answer to that.
Yeah. I know you're really involved in thinking about, and more than that even, with self-driving cars. And I'd love your take on sort of where are we now and where is that headed? How quickly is this coming upon us?
Yeah, boy. So what my students at Stanford and an old friend and my wife had co-founded a company, Drive.ai, and I joined their board just a few weeks ago. I'm actually very optimistic about the future of self-driving cars. I think that the ecosystem for supporting self-driving, actually, here's an interesting story. Over about a decade ago, I was attending the DARPA Urban Challenge, right, down a little bit outside LA. And so a bunch of us standing there, and there are all these cars driving around, a lot of cars without drivers in them. I've previously seen, like one self-driving car, two self-driving cars, but the thing that was really surprising was I'd never seen that many of them all at the same time. The funny thing about that experience was when we got to the DARPA Urban Challenge at that time, all of us were just fascinated. We were staring at these cars and saying, oh my God, look at all these cars driving around with no drivers. And the really surprising thing to me was after 5 minutes, we were bored and we turned our back to it and the cars were zipping past behind me and I was like, whatever, I'm talking to my friend. So one thing that's amazed me is how fast the human brain is able to acclimatize to it. And when I ride in a self-driving car, again, I don't know how many of you have taken a ride in one. The first 5 minutes, maybe the first 10 minutes is fascinating. And then after that, you're actually kind of bored and you're kind of wondering when the ride will end. So I think the technology is, kind of getting there. I think it still needs to deploy. We still need to make this happen. But I'm actually pretty optimistic about the ability of the human mind to just get used to this and find it boring much more quickly than you might expect.
All right, so that's a nice segue into the dystopian line of questioning, which is, okay, so I'm sure you're right. It will adjust to it, and it would be crazy not to have self-driving cars. I think truck driver is, the biggest profession in the U.S. and internationally, and it's not far-fetched to think you could replace most or all truck drivers. It'd be crazy not to with this technology. So now we're starting to get into the questions you must face all the time about, who's going to get hit, how many jobs are going to be wiped out, and what in the world do we do about that? But let's try to limit this. So many jobs, white collar and blue collar, are sure to be wiped out as we develop AI, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really, I've been in a lot of private conversations of AI leaders or business leaders that are working on new AI products that will wipe out tens of thousands of jobs, maybe more, or in a single company, really many more across multiple companies. And the interesting thing is that a lot of people whose jobs are squarely in the crosshairs of the technologists, a lot of people doing the jobs that are about to go away, they don't understand AI, and they don't have the training to understand AI. And so a lot of people whose jobs are going to go away don't know that they're in the crosshairs. So I think that'll be a challenge for society to deal with. And for what it's worth, I know some people hate the term East and West Coast elites. I don't like the term that much either. But I think that with the rise of technology, we've done a lot to create wealth, especially for that hate the term East and West Coast elites. But I think that this is an unpopular point of view. There is an argument that I think we've left a lot of the country behind, frankly. And I think if we want to create not just a wealthy society, which we're very good at, but if we want to create also a fairer society, then I think we have work ahead of us. One other thing, with the rise of, as our industry transformed, when we went from primarily the agricultural industry to industrial to services, we had to rejigger our educational system. Right? We built the K-12 system. We built the higher ed system so people could keep on finding jobs. I think we're reaching a point where we need to maybe rebuild our educational system, or at least add some new components to our educational system yet again, so that someone whose job is displaced has a shot, has a good shot at getting themselves the training they need in order to find meaningful work.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in a second, but I want to tee up because it's interesting that you're relatively optimistic, I guess, about how society will adapt to these technological changes. But some very smart people, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, Bill Gates. Well, so Musk commented, as everyone's seen, AI is our biggest existential threat. Hawking has said it would take off on its own. Humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded by AI. Are they crazy?
Excuse me. I think that maybe hundreds of years from now, we could have super intelligent AI, maybe thousands of years from now, I don't really know. These technological breakthroughs, we've been very bad at predicting when it will happen, but as an AI insider, having built and shipped a lot of AI products, I don't see a clear path for AI to surpass human level intelligence. I think the job displacement is a huge problem, and is the one that I wish we could focus on rather than be distracted by these science fiction-ish dystopian elements. I think that there are a couple unhealthy dynamics that have happened in the AI industry that I'm not very happy with. Several years ago, there were a few startups that used the specter of AI dystopian fear to attempt to drive up their valuations. And I think that was very unhealthy, where there were some startups whose pitch was, oh, dear investor or dear potential acquirer, my technology is so powerful, and as part of how I want to convince you of how powerful my technology is, I'm going to pretend to be fearful of my own power. It's like, look at my huge muscles. Look at how powerful I am. You need to be afraid of me and therefore pay me a lot of money. And I thought that was very unhealthy. I hope we've gotten past that, but I think that created really. But I think the dystopian fears of AI, I don't know, it's easy to pick almost any discipline, nanotechnology, or I don't know, DNA hacking, or maybe creation of new biological organisms, and hype it, right? And with very simple, very naive, exponential thinking arguments, you can take a lot of things and extrapolate. My friend gave birth to a child about 3 months ago, and so her baby Lucas, has been growing exponentially in weight. I think if you extrapolate to the next 100 years, in 100 years, her baby Lucas will be taller than the Empire State Building, I'm sure, and will be a threat to human civilization. But we know this is a very naive exponential extrapolation to the future. Same thing for nanotech. Nanotech is getting so small, pretty soon it'll be smaller than even a single atom. Well, that's probably not going to happen. And same thing for biological computing, you know, DNA hacking. All of these are easy to hype up as existential threats to humanity. I don't want to say we shouldn't study this at all. I think as a society, you know, if we have couple of research groups and maybe a dozen PhD students studying these issues, I think that's a good thing. But I do worry that as a society, we're probably over-investing in the study of evil AI and under-investing in the study of how to manage the job displacement and the educational solutions that we need to develop.
Because in this country, at least, I can't think of many examples where companies opt not to adopt the most efficient latest technology, even if it means job losses. Actually, you had an interesting, so one area that AI seems to be pretty good at is reading sort of medical scans. Probably, I think we all agree, far better than humans do.
Yes.
So you posted on your, I can't remember if it was your Twitter feed or what, but it was a note from a radiologist who was saying, should I quit? And you got a sort of discussion going there. But yeah, if you're a radiologist and you know that machines do your job better than you, should you quit?
Yeah, I think that, let's see, you know, it was interesting. So the radiologist that emailed me asking me, right, should he quit radiology? He was in the 3rd year of his radiology program. I mentioned earlier that in tech, we're used to the ground shifting under us. Like, I'm probably learning pieces of technology that will be obsolete in 10 years. So in 10 years, you know, I had better learn to do something, learn the newest, latest technologies. I think that as tech enters other vertical disciplines, this rapid cycle of iteration and this feeling of the ground constantly shifting under us is just evolving into other disciplines as well. So I tend to think it's okay that what you're doing is obsolete or will be obsolete in some number of years. In tech, I'm used to that. I mean, probably whatever I'm doing, I actually hope a lot of it, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it will be obsolete. And in 10 years, I had better have learned something new. So in CS, we're just used to that. And I think other disciplines will just have to get used to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but as you've said, you know, a lot of a displaced truck driver is not suddenly going to convert into an AI specialist. Are you one of the people who, you know, is a proponent of some sort of basic income during the transitional period?
Yeah, you know, so I actually favor basic income, but not unconditional basic income. So unconditional basic income is this idea where we pay you to, you know, to do nothing or do whatever you want. And I actually don't think that's the right solution. I think there's a lot to the dignity of work, and there's something about basic income that runs counter to the dignity of work. And also, there's this argument that, you know, people, I don't know, operating as the drivers for ride-sharing services, they're having a hard time making ends meet. So let's pay them some more so they can keep being a ride, you know, like a driver for the rest of their life and get along better. And that's an okay vision, right? I do want people to, you know, get enough pay, have a good life, be able to support their families. But I feel like want to be even better if we can always help people climb to do more meaningful work, higher paying work, create more economic value, rather than say, whatever job you're doing, you know, such as this gig economy, as a contractor gig economy, let's pay you more so you could work a gig economy for the rest of your life. I think it's a fine option if you want to do that, but I'd rather support people to climb to higher tiers of the, you know, higher levels of value creation in the economy as well. So rather than unconditional basic income, I would actually I think that it'd be better for society if we had conditional basic income, where we pay you not to, quote, do nothing, but we pay you to, frankly, to study, right? There have been these economist reports. A typical report from the economists might be that, you know, 30% of jobs are at significant risk of automation in the next 20 years or something, right? And 30% of the jobs at risk of automation is really scary. But the flip side of that is maybe as much as 70% of jobs are not at significant risk of automation in the next decade or two. And in fact, for that 70%, as well as a lot of new jobs are creating, we just can't find enough people to do them. So I don't think we're going to run out of jobs for humans, you know, anytime in the near future. And the problem is a reskilling job displacement issue. So if we can find ways to help the displaced truck driver or the displaced ride-sharing driver or even the displaced radiologist have a support structure around them to help them keep learning so they can tackle the new types of jobs that our economy is creating. I think that that creates an engine of growth, an engine of value creation for our economy that is healthier than even unconditional basic income. Thank you.
He really agrees with that.
But maybe what if we're saying, this is one other personal point of view. This one's controversial. I haven't thought through carefully myself as well. But I think I really feel like we need a new way of thinking about education. And with the rise of digital content, we now do have lower cost, higher and very high quality and relatively low cost ways of delivering education. So one of the things that happened in the US economy is a dramatic reduction in employer-employee loyalty, right? It's this idea that, oh, I'll hire you, work for me, and then if I don't need you, well, we'll just lay you off and we'll move on and find someone else. But I think that with the rise of digital content, I'm actually thinking through, I don't know if I could do this, but I really wonder if we can build corporations where there's more employer-employee loyalty, because I think corporations are now able to more efficiently level up their employees to tackle new skills. So I actually, part of me really wonder if it's possible to build an economy where, if the work that needs to be changes, rather than throwing people out on the street, I really wonder if we could build corporations that are more loyal to their employees and invest more in their employees and helps the employees undergo transitions in the nature of work that needs to be done.
The techno-optimists often talk about, well, AI won't displace, that you'll have more of an augmentation. You'll have cooperation. You'll have humans working with machines. And I always thought that seemed unlikely, that yes, you may have that, but if it's preparing your taxes, AI programs will basically do everyone's taxes. You might have one person who's sort of customer-facing and does that sort of high-touch, final. Am I wrong about that? I mean, it just seems like that's not really an answer, that the technology will still displace a lot of people.
I think, right, the technology will displace a lot of people, ranging from truck drivers to call center operators to maybe radiologists to many others. But I think it'll be industry by industry. So just as the invention of the automobile, it caused a displacement of, horse carriage, right, drivers. It really created the taxi industry. So that created huge amounts of employment. So I think it really depends on where you are on the supply, demand, cost curve. Because by driving services down in costs, AI, I think of AI as automation on steroids, right? The set of things we could automate has suddenly grown much larger thanks to AI tools we've invented in the last couple of years. So this will significantly reduce the cost of a lot of services. And so I think depending on the, price elasticity, on how much demand there is, in some vertical industries, this could actually increase demand and create more employment, at least in the near term. But in other industries, I think it will result in more job displacement and job creation. So I think it will vary by industry.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question, then we'll open it up to questions from this audience and from the audience online. And that's the bias question. I'm sure you've answered this many times, but there's a lot of concern that age, gender, race biases are being built in unintentionally to the algorithms that power AI. Is that a sound fear, and can something be done about that, and if so, what?
Yeah, I think it is worth paying attention to. I don't think it's a huge unsolvable problem for AI, but it is one that we need to work on. So, my Carol, my wife, once wrote this article raising this horrifying, basically making the point that it'd be terrifying if one day self-driving cars are more likely to hit people of one ethnicity than people of different ethnicities. I think none of us really want that. So I think that a lot of the biases of AI today reflects the biases from our data. So you find that if you have AI learn from text downloaded off the internet, then the AI will adopt certain biases about gender roles, for example, that is just reflected in the way text on the internet reflects those biases. There is interesting research. So, for example, I think Microsoft had a very nice paper last December at NIPS conference showing that in one instance, it could go into this neural network and find bias dimension, go into the little brain and find a number that corresponds to bias, and they could zero it out, and that significantly reduce the exhibition of gender bias or other types of biases. I think we live in a society which is interesting. We decided that it's not okay to discriminate on certain protected characteristics like gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age in some circumstances. And so I think that there is technical work that we could do to make sure AI also respects those values of a society. Part of me wonders, I don't know, is not a protected characteristic legally in the U.S. to discriminate against, people with, I don't know, certain facial features, maybe people have unibrows or people that are overweight or whatever. I think that even beyond the protected characteristics in society, it'd be worthwhile for AI technologists to make sure that we don't discriminate in other unintended ways.
All right, great. So I know there are microphone runners sort of around the room, but Angela, why don't we start? Do you have questions coming in from
I've got a couple
online?
of questions. A lot of interest, obviously, in the jobs question, people who are out in the audience. One person says, just as companies need to be thinking about how to deploy AI, individuals need to be thinking about how they can interact with AI and use AI in their jobs. And that's an observation. But the person basically asks, maybe there are some fields, though, that won't be touched so much. For instance, it's like teaching or nursing. Because the person asks, can we code, or do you see a day when we can code for compassion?
Yeah. I think that some...
Machines are taking over.
I was going to say, do we blow the system?
I think that there are efforts in that direction already. So first, I think that, actually, here's one example. There's a company called Woebot, started by one of my friends, Alison Darcy, WOEBOT, which is a digital mental health care chatbot. It was shown in a study led by Stanford University that Woebot, chatting with this digital mental health care chatbot, can reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression after just 2 weeks of conversation, right, with a chatbot. And I think part of the users' feedback on Woebot is that it seems to understand them. You can talk to it at 2 a.m. and if you're feeling depressed, you could talk to this chatbot at 2 a.m. and have a piece of software, maybe try to understand you and help you along. So I think that it is slowly getting there. I think that digital mental health care is an exciting area, and it's built. For those of you who want to try it, WOEBOT is built into Facebook Messenger.
Okay, I can't see where the microphone is, but if someone has one, here we go. Yeah, hand it out to whoever. There's a question up here if you want. But okay, good.
Sure. My name is Ben Lokshan. I had a question kind of going back to the comparison you made earlier between the AI trend and the previous transformational trends like mobile or the internet. And when people talk about mobile or the internet, they often talk about the ways that it benefits even small businesses or individuals and not just large corporations. For example, anybody can create an app, anybody can get a website, speaking broadly. But that doesn't really seem to be the case with AI. Like, not a lot of small companies seem to be able to build and ship AI products. And I wonder if you think that's correct or not, and how you see that affecting balance between the large corporations who are able to do this and small companies who may not be able to.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, so much of what we think is AI is influenced by the, frankly, sometimes very, very large PR and marketing budgets of the large tech companies that like to promote themselves as AI organizations. I think that AI offers a lot of opportunities for small companies as well. So there are some industry verticals where the large companies have so much data that I would have no idea how to build a small team to attack that industry vertical, right? So for example, web search. To build an effective web search engine, you do need a ton of data about, for example, what users click on when they search on different terms. And so today, the large web search engines have that data asset, and barring an unexpected technological breakthrough, I have no idea how to build a small team to build anything, even remotely competitive with what the large web search engines today can do. But for new industry verticals, I think that it is entirely possible for a small team to, through cleverness or ingenuity or something, acquire enough data and then start getting users. The users creates more data, and this creates a positive feedback loop where you can then scale and grow your business and eventually build up to a defensible business. Actually, for example, this is not a business, but this is a research project. Several weeks ago, my Stanford students published a paper showing that we can read ECG, electrocardiograms, heart electricity, single lead ECGs at a level that's superior to a single human cardiologist. And my Stanford students had gotten enough data by just partnering with one company, with iRhythm. And so through a single partnership, we could already build a system that worked very well. I think we're trying to open source the thing, so it's not a commercial thing. But if this were a product, you might be able to just get enough data somehow to launch a product that's good enough for users to use, and then bring in users, the users creates data, the data helps you keep improving the product, and this creates a positive feedback loop so that after some number of years, you might be able to accumulate enough data to build a defensible business for yourself. The thing about data is that it's very vertical specific. So just because a large tech company has a lot of data in speech recognition or web search or online advertising, that data might not be that useful for, say, reading ECG readings. So if you focus on that vertical, I think there are plenty of valuable opportunities for a small startup as well to launch something, start to get traction, and then accumulate data over some period of time that then enables you to build a defensible business.
I know there's a question right here in the front. And probably one back there, too. Well, hang on, because people at home can't hear.
Hi, I'm Alexa. I work at Google. I have a related question about that. I'm curious, with the public libraries of data that are available, with partnerships like that, and with APIs that are out there, how many companies really do you think need a full AI strategy to build their own AI capabilities in-house, and how many can outsource it?
Yeah, I think that, let's see, I think large companies, I would say a lot of large companies have a lot of data, and the pattern is that when you have enough data, you can often use AI to turn that data into new valuable products and services and insights. So I think a lot of large companies should build their own in-house AI strategy, because there will be value that can be created from that data. There's so much that so many corporations could automate now. The companies that I think maybe shouldn't pay as much attention to AI would be really the smaller companies that should just focus on building their business rather than trying to build their own AI team for now. But I think it will affect, I think that AI would, I've been making this analogy that AI is the new electricity, right? About 100 years ago, electricity transformed every single major industry, everything from healthcare, communications, retail, transportation, manufacturing, agriculture. That was transformed by electricity. And I think in AI, we now see a surprisingly clear path to also transform every major industry. And I think the large tech companies have done a good job. Really, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Baidu, open sourcing a lot of the broad-based platforms. So a lot of the broad-based tools are available, but we need a lot more work to develop the verticalized per industry solutions. And I think a lot of that work will have to be done in the specific vertical industries.
Angela, have you got another?
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about is risk and security. Particularly, a lot of people are asking, do you think that cybersecurity is going to be affected, even more frightening, by AI? Because aren't we going to get smarter, scarier viruses?
Yeah, it's very interesting. My friends in security, I don't know, professors like Don Song at Berkeley, Dan Boneh at Stanford, my friends that work in computer security have become really knowledgeable about AI and about machine learning. So I think the meme of using AI for security has definitely made it into computer security. Maybe all my friends are on the defensive side. I don't actually know what people are doing for the offensive side, but I think that I do see AI helping a lot in defending our systems.
Okay, yeah, this question back.
Hi, I'm Rachit. I've worked in education in the past. I'm trying to transition to a role in AI and machine learning. And as someone, you mentioned digital content. I'm using a lot of digital content to learn. Coursera, Udacity, edX. And while the content's great, and I'm learning a lot of skills, I still don't see a clear path to employability. I mean, the projects seem very small scale. I'm not seeing very many companies offering internships to people who aren't enrolled in graduate programs. So maybe more could be done to create those paths to employability. So do you have any comments on that? Are people working on that right now?
Yeah. Let me, boy, with the rise of, there is one thing, there's one shift I'm seeing across corporations, which is that the role of the chief learning officer or the VP HR, whoever manages learning and development in your organization, that is changing. So 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you want to level up your organization's technical capability, you didn't have a lot of good options. You might hire someone to come stand in a room and deliver a lecture to 20 engineers about Python programming or whatever. And that was because we had much less digital content. Today, there's a lot of good content online, and I think the role of the chief learning officer should be much less about content creation, but much more content curation. So I think that, and also, here's another thing. Some talk about the Saturday morning problem, right? Even for you as individuals and many of your employees, every Saturday you have a choice. You could either, go have fun with your friends, or you could go and study. And the problem with studying, working really hard all day Saturday, maybe all day Sunday, is that the following Monday, you're not actually that much better at your job. Like, you just stayed away all weekend. And the following Monday, you're not actually that much better at your job. Your boss doesn't know what you did, so they're not going to pat you on the back. And really, what did you gain? But here's the secret, which is that if you study hard, not just for one weekend, but do it weekend after weekend for a year, maybe even 3 months, but for a year, you will gain a new and valuable skill, and you will be able to do new things, maybe get a raise, maybe get help your organization. So one of the problems of education is that it has almost no short-term rewards, but it has profound long-term rewards. So one of the things I think we need to do, either as a society through conditional basic income, which we talked about earlier, or as a corporation, is put in place the structures and processes and incentives to help or to motivate people to do, to engage in the development activities that are very good for themselves as individuals, as well as for the corporations. So I think that going forward, a lot of the role of the chief learning officer will be to curate content, as well as to put in place some of these new structures and processes to actually help their organizations take advantage of the digital content that now exists, and helps their employee base gain new and valuable skills.
I almost forgot I was going to use my special journalistic techniques to figure out, what is your new venture going to be?
So I'm working on several things. Several weeks ago, I announced the website deeplearning.ai. So it relates to deep learning, and it also relates to AI.
So one of the journalistic techniques is when somebody gives an answer like that, you don't do the next question. You just keep looking at the guy. And then all kinds of stuff can happen. I could be here all day.
I'm going to run out the clock. Okay. It says 2.
All right.
I'll say more about that in August. Okay. I'll be able to say more about that next month.
Okay, great. All right, question here.
Hi, Andrew. Andrew Waterman here. I'm a machine learning consultant for startups and small companies. And in my microcosm, I see a trend where companies believe that you take a consultant like me, input data, out comes AI. But the problem is most of the algorithms that are available are based on training data, and training data is expensive and mostly hoarded by the larger companies who have massive amounts of it. So we end up needing to turn to unsupervised algorithms. So my question to you is, do you see data becoming more liberated and training data becoming more available to all sorts of startups and other types of companies, or do you see the algorithms maturing on the unsupervised ML side, or some other path to AI becoming available to the rest of us?
Yeah, so I'm excited about unsupervised learning as a research topic, and I think I would love to see breakthroughs in unsupervised learning. But most of the value creation today is really supervised learning from labeled data, as well as transfer learning, which is actually creating a lot of value, where you learn from one task and then use the knowledge you've learned from one task to try to apply that to a different task. It's creating a lot of value, but people don't seem to talk about it in the media as much for some reason. But I don't think that all the valuable data lives in the large tech companies, because I used ECG as an example just now, but for whatever you're doing, maybe you want to work in precision agriculture. A few of my former students at Stanford started a company that looks at heads of cabbages in the ground and makes life and death decisions about which head of cabbage shall live and which head of cabbage shall die. And this actually increases crop yields. And so I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know what they do, but I wouldn't be surprised if today they have the biggest data asset in terms of pictures of cabbages hopped in the ground. And that's a data asset that the large tech companies don't have. So I think often in your specific industry vertical, through cleverness or just sweat or partnerships, you can acquire enough data. But the data acquisition strategies, similar to technology, often need to be customized to your industry vertical.
All right, I'm sorry to say that we're out of time. This has been an incredible discussion. Thank you, Andrew, for giving us an hour of your time.
Thank you.
And I want to thank our friends at Google Cloud for making this discussion possible. I want to thank all of you for coming, all the people who are watching online. It's been a fantastic discussion. Have a great day.